another thing that I took a chance on, is the film scores and original orchestral music of George Martin, the Berlin Music Ensemble, conducted by Craig Leon. Let's see. It's a 2 LP set, and they do... Let me show you the track listing back here. I haven't listened to it yet. Still unopened, brand new. Does things like the Pepperland Suite from Yellow Submarine, music from Live and Let Die, Under Milkwood. I don't know, it just sounded interesting to me. George Martin, you know, dude produced the Beatles. Gotta be good, right? So, yeah.
Next up, and again, I think I discovered this through 45cat.com. A very common single. It's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Change Your Heart, but I picked it up for the non-LP B-side called Heartbreakers Beach Party. I was expecting like a surf instrumental, which it kind of is, but also has Petty, mainly Petty, and the band like doing goofy comments and vocalizations on here, like, hey, did you bring your potato salad and stuff? So just a throwaway B-side that's a lot of fun. It's like 1 minute 55 seconds, and this is from the Long After Dark LP, 1982. Yeah, Heartbreakers Beach Party, non-LP B-side.
I miss Tom Petty. He still has his Buried Treasure show that, or even channel that is on Sirius XM radio, and I just listened to it. I'm like, ugh, I miss Tom Petty. Close friend, Tom Petty. Up next is George Harrison, Somewhere in England. Again, have not opened it. We have so many things that we haven't listened to yet because of this massive influx of vinyl that I have purchased.
If we have the winter that they're predicting, we'll have time to listen to records on the weekend.
So, of course, Somewhere in England has All Those Years Ago on it. So it was like an 80s record. Of course, you can tell by George's clothes and hair and all that stuff. But I'm looking forward to listening to this because I'm not real familiar with all the other tracks on this album. But I love George. He's my favorite Beatle. This was a great deal, so I snapped on it. Snapped on it? Whatever. Snapped it up.
I'm going to show these two together as they kind of go together. If you're familiar with Norton Records, they have this series of singles with current garage bands covering Rolling Stone songs, and I found these two. I'm not digging these as much as the other ones I found, but they're pretty neat. This one has the Black Lips covering What to Do, and a band called Demon's Claws doing Factory Girl.
Speaking of Demon's Claws, stop it.
Hey!
Naughty, naughty.
And this one has a band called The Girls at Dawn doing That Belongs to Yesterday that the Stones never recorded, but they gave away to, I think, Gene Pitney or George Bean. And this side has the Gay Blades doing Ruby Tuesday, part of their Rolling Stones cover series.
I think Oliver's like, who are you talking to?
Yes. We need to have a live stream with Steve, and him and Kat can talk. We'll walk away and 2 cats will be
just like, no, they'll probably just fall asleep.
Do they not feed you? Yeah, leave the bowl empty too.
Just starving kitties.
He's got the zoomies.
Whoa, yeah, he does. Up next, a newer, I guess you could, I was talking to somebody younger the other day, and I said The Killers. They're like a newer band to me, and they're like, The Killers? That's like classic. That's older. And I'm like, what? Okay, that made me feel really old. But anyway, this is the, I think 10th or 15th anniversary of their Day and Age album. It includes songs like Human and Spaceman. Spaceman is probably one of my all-time favorite Killers songs. Sorry, Cat just zoomed through. I love the Killers. Killers to me are like a throwback to the Cars. I think they even inducted the Cars into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is a 2 LP set. Really cool. The only complaint I have about it is that it is like a book. So this whole area here, it doesn't fit into the regular like space you would put a record. Sorry, I didn't like knock you out with this one. But it's still cool. Glad to have it. Killers, Day and Age.
Next up, for me, this is a not reissue, but a release on Sundays, The Velvet Underground, with 2 tracks that were intended for their unreleased 4th Verve album. They have an edited version of Foggy Notion, because Foggy Notion is a much longer song on the VU comp. And the flip side is I Can't Stand It, both recorded in May 1969. Even though it's on Sundays, they recreated the MGM label. There's the back if you need to see it. But this was on Sundays, came out. I don't think this was a record store day thing, but this is from 2011. Yeah, did I need it? No, but it was cool to have. Again, like I always say, I saw it sitting there and been sitting there for a while. I was like, poor little record. Come home with me.
Come home with me. I'll appreciate you. In between all of this stuff, the new stuff that I bought, I did get a couple of few used albums. These next two that I'll be showing are from a used bookstore that we have in a nearby town called Blue Vase Booksellers or something like that.
Blue Vase.
Blue Vase,
Our local record store. Our local record store puts their cheap $1 to $3 stuff in Blue Vase records. They have racks there.
So we went there a couple times and found some used records there. I did find another Emmylou Harris, Living Emmylou. This is Cimarron. Haven't listened to this yet, but it's supposed to be one of her best. It was only a few bucks at Blue Vase, so a new to me album.
I don't know, I look at her and the way she looks on that record, I think she could be on reservation.
She's just like Native American on that one.
My next one, Big Star with September Girls 1974 rehearsal from New York City.
So good.
And a version of The Letter live in Memphis 1974. This is on Norton and it's taken from the Big Star album on Norton called Nobody Can Dance, which is full of unreleased stuff, rehearsals and live on the Norton label. Very cool.
That is cool. I'm glad you bought that because you were like him-hawing about it and you're like,
again, it was sitting there for a couple weeks. I'm like, why is no one buying this?
Some people say it's a guilty pleasure, but I just enjoy them. Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66. Like I said, I like loungy, kind of fun records. This is their album called Stillness. They do, let's see, Chelsea Morning, which is, I have Chelsea, like a best of Sergio Mendes, and I've played Chelsea Morning a couple times on the show, and it's really cool. They do For What It's Worth.
Oh.
This is a gatefold, which is cool. Oh, yeah, that lady still in the group at this time? I think so. But yeah, Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66, Stillness.
Next up, I'm kind of at the point where you write Yardbirds on a piece of paper, I'll buy it. I did not need this. Again, it was sitting in our local store and nobody was buying it. It was reasonably priced. This is the Sundays 2011 Record Store Day release reissue of their very last single, Goodnight Sweet Josephine, back with the awesome track Think About It. I have an epic original promo of this. So this is superfluous, but it's cool for the sleeve. With
Jimmy's wearing like a kink shirt on there.
Yeah, he's wearing like the puffy shirt from Seinfeld. And two pictures I have seen before, but they have them on and they recreate the epic. Oh, and I got a
spindle.
And I got a free spindle. They kind of recreate the epic promo label, but they put Sundays. Again.
Did you need it? No.
No.
You want it?
But I was like sitting there, and my friend Rob Brannigan would be like, "Oh, you have to get that," because like I just said, you write Yardbirds on a piece of paper. At some points in my career as a collector, I would have bought it from you.
I'll try it out. I'll put it. It's tomorrow morning when he has his cereal. I'm gonna write Yardbirds on a piece of paper and see if he'll give me $10. This one is kind of a fun connection. We've talked about this in our our radio show, because we played a tune from it a couple weeks ago. And when I was in 6th grade, long story short, I was in 6th grade, I had a teacher who was a musician. I went to a creative and performing arts school for about a year, if you can imagine that. I used to sing and act and all that stuff. And anyway, fast forward a bunch of years, John has this compilation on his Amazon wish list, I think it was. And we were going through it, and you had mentioned something like, hey, there's a band from your hometown, Rockford, Illinois, on here, and it wasn't Cheap Trick. But anyway, it was... sorry. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't know. I just looked the band up and I found out that my sixth grade math teacher was in this band. They're called Pisces, and the album, I think it's just, I don't know if they're called Pisces, A Lovely Sight, or if the album's called A Lovely Sight. But this is Pisces, A Lovely Sight, and they're kind of like your typical 60s, you know, garage, try to be psychedelic kind of band and everything. They have a few good tracks. We listened to the whole thing the other day and it was pretty good. There he is right there. That was my sixth grade math teacher, Mr. Crine. Mr. Jim Crine. I looked him up. He has since passed away a few years ago, unfortunately, or else I would be like totally about trying to get him on the show or something. He's a fun little piece of garage rock history. It's a fun album. Some even a Monkees sounding track. It even says so in the little write-up in here that it's kind of a Monkees sounding couple of tracks on here. But one thing I remember all about Mr. Crine, I hate math, never liked math, and he used to have these tapes that he made of the multiplication tables, and he would play them for us to try to get us to help memorize the multiplication tables. So he'd play these every day in class, and we'd have to do these drills where he'd be like, 3 times 3 equals 3 times 4 equals 4 times 4, just in like a rhythm, and then a guitar in the background. Everyone would end with this like guitar string like ding. And at the time I didn't appreciate it. I was like, oh, math, I hate it. But now I think I can actually really appreciate it as, a music lover. So Mr. Crine, Pisces, A Lovely Sight. Bought this on Discogs because I just was curious.
I'm gonna have to close the door on him.
No, because then he'll cry.
Next up for me, I'm gonna show these together. Hey!
Just let it go.
I don't want to knock it down. I'm gonna show these together because they turned out I had to buy them together to get both of them. This was a syndicated radio show through the 70s into the 80s called What's It All About? Hosted by a guy called Bill, I guess you pronounce it Huey. He was a journalist, but he was all in the 50s. He was criticized for checkbook journalism because after the group of men that were found not guilty of murdering Emmett Till, he went and paid them for their story where they openly admitted to killing them, but since they're already found not guilty,
double.
But
yeah.
He did these radio shows where he actually interviewed rock stars or did like fake interviews, took audio clips from other interviews, used them for himself. But I bought these because they're the Kinks on one side of each, because one says broadcast October 79, one says February 1981, but they're both the same exact interview with Ray. I thought they would be different. And this one has Rex Smith on this side. This one has Glenn Campbell. This guy ended up dying, I think, from like alcoholism or something. I have one other one of these records that has Frank Zappa on one side and Firefall on the other. I like to get the ones that have The Who, but they tend to be put on eBay for a lot more than what I want to spend for them. But I got both of these together as a lot for under $10. So, we're Kinks completists. I bought them. They're kind of fun.
We have so much to show in this video. I think we might have to end up doing like a part 1 and a part 2, so people aren't like, oh my god, I'm gonna watch like a 3-hour video. But anyway, next up for me, I had never heard of this record before until I saw it for auction, and I thought, yeah, I'll try that. This is Thrillington, and basically it is Paul McCartney, and I haven't listened to it yet, but it's Percy Thrill's Thrillington, remastered at Abbey Road Studios, includes orchestral renditions of Paul and Linda McCartney's album Ram. So it basically is Ram, just done in like an orchestral fashion. There's the track listing, the back, and I did open it though to check it out, and it's got like a, black inner sleeve. So, for $10, I think this might have even been less than $10 because sometimes they do these like flash sales. So definitely snap that up to give it a try.
Well, when Heidi first discovered Whatnot and was telling me about it, we would sit on the couch watching television after dinner, after work. And one night she's on there watching this guy auction stuff, and she asked me, "Do you like Country Joe and the Fish?" I said, don't know much about them. The only things I have are like the tracks on the Woodstock album and the Rag Baby version is Section 43 on a comp. She's like, well, you're getting this. This is an awesome looking box set. Country Joe and the Fish, 1967. Their first 2 albums in mono and stereo, so you get 4 records in here. It also comes with a short DVD about the early history of the band and Berkeley Free Speech, and it has a recreation of what they called the Fish Game, which was a mock board game that came with the first album. You're supposed to cut out tokens and everything. You see on the back there, like I said, you get 4 LPs, so you get 2 versions of each LP. One of them has a different cover, which I think is a foreign cover.
Depending upon the seller, the person that's running the auction for VC Vinyl, I don't know, they might have changed since, a few weeks ago, but they will start their box sets anywhere from $15 to $25. And this one they put up and nobody was bidding on it because the shrink was a little bit like torn. But otherwise, it's in perfect condition. Nobody was bidding on it. So they had it up for 25, and then he put it up he's like, oh, I'll put it up for like 18 or whatever. And I'm like, nobody's bidding on this. What's wrong with it? So I'm like, John, do you like this?
I'll give it a shot. It's a great package. I don't know,
Christmas.
I just smelled the lid on here, but the smell.
Smell the lid.
No, it's one of those smells that like.
It's the new like.
Well, no, it's a sense memory because I smell it. Like it kind of smells like the children's department, the library I went to when I was a little kid. The books and the covers,
children's department,
children's library,
oh.
Children's department in the library. It comes with a short DVD called "How We Stopped the War." A recreation of a Fish fan club pamphlet with some photos and artwork and stuff.
Yeah, you gotta show the details of these box sets. It's just really cool.
This was a concert poster.
Cool. I love those concert posters.
I think that's.
It's a calendar.
It's the Fish calendar.
Yeah.
Recreation of that. And then
I love all the ephemera they stick
This
in
was
things.
a reprint of the Fish Game that came with, I think, the first or second record. You're supposed to cut out the tokens. It makes me laugh. Like it says you land on a space. You land on a space. Acid trip. Take 2 extra turns. Or what was the one that really made me laugh?
You can cut out the.
Go to the Avalon. A benefit. No points.
Just visiting jail.
Score 1 joint. Paranoid. Lose a turn.
Uncool.
Yeah. And then there's
That's so creative,
a big lovely booklet. This was done by Vanguard and Craft Recordings. Pictures of lots of posters and artwork.
It's neat that someone devoted a lot of time to putting this together, even though Country Joe and the Fish, they're not like the Beatles or any other super popular band, but people who it's really something for somebody who really loves the band, but the fact that it was so affordable.
I'm looking forward to listening to this. Yeah, it's actually called 1967 The Wave of Electrical Sound, 4 LPs.
And we did go to RPM a couple times, our local record store. I have been getting into the early B-52s, so I just picked up their first on here. Of course, it's got Planet Claire and Rock Lobster, of course. Haven't opened this yet, but it was, a must for my collection, and it's just cool.
This was one of the giveaways that Heidi won. I think you tried a couple times to win this.
Yeah,
but
they do every show. They start off with a giveaway of one album, and then they usually do a giveaway after every 50 albums are sold.
But this, I've always been a very big fan of this piece of automotive history, and she got me the Blu-ray for Christmas. We finally watched it, and I found it to be pretty well historically accurate, except for a few little things, but I'm not that nerdy. This is the soundtrack to Ford versus Ferrari on Hollywood Records, crystal clear vinyl. Lots of great songs on here. It's got Link Ray, so it's got to be cool. There's the back cover. This is the classic story of how Ford Motor Company made an offer to buy Ferrari, and Ferrari turned them down very rudely. And Henry Ford II, the Deuce, was kind of like, "Oh yeah, screw you, we're gonna beat you in racing." And it took them 2 tries before in 1966, 3 Fords crossed the line, 1, 2, 3, beating all the Ferraris. The Ferraris were out of the race. Actually, it's going to be a long time before we get to it, going through the cube. But I discovered an album on London International, which is like an audio documentary of the 1966 Le Mans race, and it's one of the coolest things I have in my collection. But can't wait to bust this open, plays. I liked a lot of the music in there.
James Burton, Sonic.
The Sonics, of course, and this
The Birds.
this Ford versus Ferrari remix of Polk Salad Annie. That's a lot of fun. Shadows of Night, the Sparkles with Hitsville 29 BC. But cool story, cool movie. I became many years ago now. I just became very fascinated with the history of the Ford GT40. So I thank Heidi for getting me this and all this stuff.
You're welcome.